Hi there everyone, welcome to Wildcat Conversations. I'm excited to be talking with another one of our Chico State alums who's doing incredible things in the world, or in the case of today, incredible things out of this world. Joining us is Jason Stockton, a graduate of our physics program, and today he's an EVA Operations Engineer for NASA's Johnson Space Center, where he plans and designs spacewalks and surface operations on the moon, training astronauts to perform these incredible missions. Outside of this, he's also a veteran, a parent, and a first-generation graduate like nearly 48% of our students. He's here to talk to us about his life, his work, and the amazing journey he's taken to landing a job in the most exciting industry in our known galaxy. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I look forward to our talk.
Great. So jumping right into it, I think when 99% of people hear the word NASA, like that's exciting in itself. For you personally, what is the thing that gets you excited to come to work each day?
Yeah, good question. There are probably two big things. The big picture thing for me is the mission. There's a handful of exciting missions, important missions that a person could take to contribute to humanity, to life in general. Dealing with climate change is certainly one of them. There's other, really important problems that people can work. The one I've chosen to work on is working on making life multiplanetary. Because in the long run, our planet is going to be at risk of another asteroid strike, or maybe humans don't quite get the climate change problem solved, right? And if we make life multiplanetary in a sustainable way, we'll be okay, and we can fix things, we can move on, right? So I get to work on that problem every day when I come here at Johnson Space Center. I get to help work on that problem pretty directly. And that's really exciting for me. I love that. And then the second thing is the people. The people I get to work with here, it makes no sense that I get to sit next to them and do work side by side with them. I work with folks who have some really amazing talents, and they're very kind and smart, intelligent, hard workers. I work next to one person who, studied at Carnegie, has performed there. Another person, she's a rock star on YouTube with a bit of a following. My boss does BMX professionally. I don't know that I've ever been anywhere else where I have this kind of a quality coworker.
Amazing.
So yeah, the people and the mission. People on the mission.
Incredible. So in addition to making humanity multiplanetary, also multi-talented. I love it. Out of interest, do you remember your first day at NASA?
I do. I had to take some ibuprofen at the end of the day because my face hurt. I was just smiling the whole day. It's a place I've learned a lot about. I studied and I looked at from afar, for a long time. And when I got here to Johnson Space Center, this is a place where we train the Apollo astronauts. We've trained all of our astronauts here since the Apollo days, right? I'm walking the halls, sitting in the offices that Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong have walked through and sat in, and just seeing the history here, like it's just amazing. And to see that it's not history; it's current. We're doing these things. That first day was just it's like a kid in candy store. It's very fun.
It's incredible when you talk about the history of NASA and all the things that have been accomplished there. Is there something in your lifetime that you would hope to see, like the big breakthrough that that's sort of in the back of your mind that you'd love to see accomplished?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Seeing a sustainable settlement develop on Mars is kind of like the goal. If I see that, I can die a happy man. Right now we're working on getting back to the moon on a kind of a semi-permanent basis with the Artemis program. It's kind of like the new Apollo program, right? And I get to work directly on that, which is amazing. And we're making it happen. It's going to happen. We're going. The next step's got to be Mars. And if I get to see humans land on Mars and we bring them home safely, and then we start to build habitats, that would be phenomenal. I would love that.
That's incredible. That's like sort of beyond like our understanding. Your journey to working at NASA has been kind of multifaceted. I know you had several experiences before college. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about what's drawn you to this line of work, to working for NASA and in space exploration and engineering?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, when I was a kiddo, I was growing up kind of in some of the worst circumstances that a kid can experience in the United States, right? We were really, really poor, with bad influences around. You had to deal with threats and with drugs and all of these negative things, right? But somehow my mom was able to impart upon me, a positive message about humanity, and how to treat people, and that kind of in general we're okay, and I believe that. And she had a love for space, but there was this thing called Star Trek, and I grew up watching Star Trek: The Next Generation on TV on Thursday nights, and it kind of set the foundation for me, I think. I loved the show. I loved the morals, the message, and the thought that that's where we're going. That's going to be our future. It's going to be positive. It's going to be good. We're going to be explorers. And we're going to treat each other well most of the time. We're humans. We're not perfect, but I think we're pretty good. So that's kind of where I started. Was with that. And then throughout the different phases of my life, I went up and down. So I get into high school and found some friends, and kind of diverted my track a little bit. Right, I barely graduated high school, so I'm not sure I should have graduated high school. But I managed to, and joined the Army. I came home. I worked some different jobs. Rejoined the Army in the Army National Guard, and found myself on deployment, trying to figure out what to do with my life, and wound up deciding to go to college. So during that decision process, I decided to try to be an astronaut. It's kind of a pie in the sky thing, right? Kind of hard to accomplish, right? You have to win several lotteries and be really good at a lot of things, right? But it's a good goal. It was a good goal. So I set my sights on that goal and pressed on.
I know we've talked a little bit about how one of the fastest growing cohorts of students in higher education is non-traditional students. So folks who had, like several life experiences or jobs, or may have started families before they even enrolled. What was that experience like for you? And how does all the experiences that you've had prior to college inform the way that you approach your education and your life goals, moving on from there?
Yeah. So, I mentioned a little bit about my past, right? So I had several jobs, I was in the Army. I was a truck driver when I got, back from that deployment where I decided to go to college. Just in case I wasn't smart enough to go to college, I needed to make a living. So, I chose to be a truck driver, and I did that for a little bit before I started. And then I started at Butte College, shortly after I got some experience doing that. Through all these different jobs, I think I learned something from all of them, certainly. And sometimes maybe they feel like a distraction, but before I had a goal, I guess you couldn't be distracted. So getting into college was a challenge, right? Luckily, I had some GI Bill to help pay for it, but it couldn't quite cover everything. I started college with a family. Me and my wife chose to have a child before we started, for some personal reasons, and so we started college and college careers and our family at the same time. Quite the challenge. I ended up having to work about 5 jobs. Like I counted one time, it was five jobs at once while attending Butte College full time. That was not sustainable, so I ended up accepting some student loans. So now I get to have that burden as well, like a lot of people do. But in the end, I just muscled through. I kept working 2-3 jobs, I think, throughout most of my career in college.
And what advice would you have? That's incredible, and it shows remarkable resilience to have sort of worked through all of those things. What advice would you have for other folks who are looking to break into a new industry, or to find a position that really aligns with their life with their life goals?
Yeah, I'd say the number one thing is to keep a goal in mind. Pick a goal, right? If you can't find something you're very, very passionate about, that's okay. But pick something that's hard. and then start working toward it. You may not land exactly that job. You may not be an astronaut, but keep that in mind. Put up posters on the wall, make it the background on your phone and computer. Put in job applications to things that you think might lead you in that direction, or to that job itself, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what an HR manager is really looking for, right? So 2 or 3 applications a month, and maybe look for opportunities to build skills that help to support that. And then maybe the number one thing is going to be communication. Talk to people, find people who work in the industry and approach them and just ask them questions.
Yeah. I want to just, speaking directly to either prospective or current Chico State students who are interested in the space field, what advice would you have for them based on your experience at Chico State? What advice would you have for them to help really push them into this industry? Okay,
so specifically for space. So I think I have two bits of advice, or at least advice for 2 different people. So if you're young, if you're 18 and you're going through college right now, you don't have much in the way of life experience. So what hiring managers have to go off of is going to be your grades and whatever extracurricular work you can do to kind of show off who you are. There's a lot of competition when you're that person. So you got to get those A's for NASA. There's other space industries, like other sectors in the space sector, right? There's defense, and they're not always so picky. So you might be able to go in that direction, look at those jobs, see what those are about. If you're older, or if you're not that student and you graduate with a 3.0 instead of a 4.0, you're going to need more work experience before you can break in. So I worked for the Department of the Navy for 6 years after I graduated from Chico State. I do think a chunk of that time I was able to develop myself, develop my skills, and develop my resume, mature it a little bit. And that was a big part of what landed me the job. So patience, definitely patience, and hard work is going to be the answer to these questions most of the time. And communication. I can't stress this enough. Like, not just networking, right? You don't go to a networking shop just to meet people. That's what they claim. That's not true. The best thing maybe that you can do is find a project to work on that causes you to develop the skills needed to coordinate between different people and organizations to make something happen. Make that your soft skill that you focus on. We need a lot of that in the space industry. NASA needs a lot of that, right? So if you can develop that skill set, just communicate. It's all about communication.
Amazing. Jason, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been great.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, everyone. Join us again for our next episode of Wildcat Conversations. If you've got a compelling story, reach out to us via class notes at csuchico.edu. We'd love to hear from you.